Could Shay Cormac from Assassin's Creed Rogue take down Ezio's Brotherhood from AC Brotherhood? We have the best assassin hunter we've ever seen, someone who took down the entire Colonial Brotherhood pretty much by himself against the best mentor we've seen in the franchise. Let's first go over why these two would go after each other. Shay Cormac by the end of Assassin's Creed Rogue completely aligns himself with the Templar beliefs. He believes that only through control can we prevent normal everyday people from causing harm to the population. The Colonial Brotherhood was blinded by the fear that the Templars could get their hands on a piece of Eden, which indirectly caused thousands of civilian deaths. After the events of Assassin's Creed Rogue, Shay is no longer a fan of the Assassins and will no doubt help the Templars. Ezio, on the other hand, deeply cares about his Brotherhood. He recruited most of the Assassins himself, and knowing that there's such a skilled assassin hunter out there, he'll make pursuing Shay one of his and the Brotherhood's top priorities. In Revelations, he hunted down an assassin hunter who was far less skilled. He did that for a Brotherhood he just got acquainted with. I think it's safe to say that Shay killed a lot more assassins than the hunter in Revelations. In this alternate timeline, we're about halfway through the events of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. The only difference being that Rodrigo and Cesare call upon an assassin hunter from a faraway land, that being Shay Cormac. The Templars during the 1500s are a lot more quote-unquote evil than the Templars in the colonial times. Shay will of course notice this, but after spending time with Rodrigo, he'll agree to take down the Assassin Brotherhood in Rome. Rodrigo is very smart and cunning, so he'll likely convince Shay. Cesare and Rodrigo will give Shay the basic rundown of who he's up against. In Assassin's Creed Rogue, Shay already knew the targets he was hunting and each of their strengths. Liam was a skilled marksman, Hope was well connected and cunning, Chevalier was skilled in naval combat, Kasegawase was an expert hunter, etc. Shay, however, doesn't know who he's up against this time. The Templar spies would educate Shay on some of the known assassins, such as Claudia Auditore, who ran the Courtesan Guild, and Bartolomeo, who ran the Mercenary Guild. They would of course inform Shay of Ezio and his exploits, which Shay would be surprised of. Based on what he's hearing, Ezio is a lot more skilled than any of the assassins he faced. The strongest assassin Shay faced was Adewale, and even then Adewale was old, missing his iconic weapons, and distracted by Hatham. Speaking of weapons, we'll just pretend that Shay has his personal handheld weapons, but his ammo is scarce and he won't be handing out his weapons to Templar engineers to replicate. Eventually he'll get used to using 16th century technology, and for obvious reasons he won't have them more again. Shay won't be able to take down the assassins immediately. The assassins have gained some serious influence that the Templars will need to combat. Shay will have to build the Templars back while hunting down the assassins. Depending on his situation, he'll likely enlist the help of other Templars, similar to how he did in Rogue. The assassins in Rogue also had a lot of connections, often using their gang to make the people bend to their will. The assassins in Rome are similar but equally different. They don't have a gang that does everything for the assassins. I mean, they kind of do have a gang, but not really. The Brotherhood has thieves, mercenaries, courtesans, businesses, recruits, and many other allies that could support or fight for them. The Colonial Brotherhood used their gang to do everything, from combat, assassinations, and security. The Italian Brotherhood is far more specialized, which makes them far more effective. Ezio can eventually send one assassin to do very hard missions. The Colonial Brotherhood, on the other hand, sends 10 gang members to kill a random civilian, which rarely shows you the skill difference. For Shay to win, he'll have to cripple the Brotherhood hard enough so either two things happen. The first option is that they eventually die out. The second option is that it takes years to bring it back to a functioning state. Even then, the Templars will likely win due to the assassins having to play catch up while the Templars would be growing. He doesn't need to kill Ezio directly, but it's likely that he'll have to face Ezio eventually. This conflict amounts to destroying the 3 assassin guilds, that being the Thief, Mercenary, and Courtesan guilds. He'll have to take down each assassin leading the guilds, that being Bartolomeo, La Volpe, and Claudia Auditore respectively. And that's only part 1. After that, you'll have to take back the assassin hideouts that they set up after burning the Borgia Towers. Shay will have to face the recruits, or Ezio's assassins, being a lot more trained and experienced than the gang leaders in Rogue. While doing all of this, the Templars will have to cut off the assassins' economic ties with the properties and stores they own. Shay will also need to find the assassin's hideout, being located underground. The Templars, even with their spies, have not found the hideout, so it won't be an easy task. task. And we haven't even mentioned the big man yet. We know Ezio is often out, traveling around Rome, growing the Brotherhood in various ways. Hunting down Ezio will be an extremely hard task since he's great at covering his tasks and is basically invisible at times. If Shay does run into him, he'll know who Ezio is thanks to the various wanted posters and information that the Templars have on him. Ezio, on the other hand, won't know who Shay is and could theoretically be jumped by him. Shay has experience assassinating assassins, and while none of the assassins he killed even come close to Ezio, it could happen. But the chance that Shay randomly runs into Ezio is slim to none. This isn't Shay's style either. He prefers to weaken the Brotherhood before going for the leader. He'll go after the other assassins first. Shay can start off 3 ways. He could go after the thief, mercenary, or courtesan guild. The guild he's going after first is hard to decide, but I think that he'd go after the mercenary guild. If he goes after Claudia Auditore, his life will be a living hell since Ezio personally will hunt him down, and if the stories are to be believed, he doesn't want that. Becoming the #1 target of the Brotherhood immediately after starting his job is not a good idea. Shay could avoid the stalkers and rogue due to his heightened senses, but stalkers aren't really comparable to fully trained assassins. The thief guild, on the other hand, is very mysterious. The Templars know that the gang is assassin affiliated and the assassin La Volpe leads them. La Volpe, however, is hardly ever seen and is a master of stealth. Going around looking for him will draw too much attention, making Shay's goal known to everyone. All of this will make Shay go after Bartolomeo first. At night, Shay will make his way to Bartolomeo's estate. His estate is pretty well known and Shay won't have trouble finding it. Once Shay reaches his house, he notices the assassins perched on the walls keeping watch. Bartolomeo is extremely important to the assassins because of his mercenaries. Shay is able to slip inside the house. He's had years of experience with avoiding and outmaneuvering assassins. Once inside, he runs into Bartolomeo's wife. Unlike the colonial assassin, she doesn't know who he is. Is he one of the mercenaries in the fight club, or is he new and got lost? She realizes that Shay isn't wearing typical mercenary gear and is equipped with much lighter weapons. Realizing something is off, she yells and attacks him with the dagger. Shay easily gets the upper hand and stabs her. Bartolomeo rushes down and attacks Shay with his immense strength. Shay's not outmatched, but Bartolomeo is a better fighter than Shay anticipated. The assassins Shay faced don't even come close to his combat ability. Shay outmaneuvers and slices Bartolomeo down right before the reinforcements burst in. He escapes using a smoke bomb. This didn't go exactly to plan due to Shay not really knowing his targets beforehand. One of the Brotherhood's main assassins is down, but what do they know? The reinforcements got a decent look at Shay and reported the details to the leaders of the order. Ezio knows that some skilled killer killed Bartolomeo by himself and in open combat, which surprises him. Ezio alerts many of the assassins to be careful. Killing Bartolomeo, while a good thing for the Templars, isn't gonna win them the war. The assassins play a major part of the economy, owning a lot of property. They have influence in a lot of districts and they are really hidden in plain sight. There's no gang or any easy way to identify the assassins. Shay has experience wiping out a Brotherhood, but he's never faced an order where they are truly hidden in plain sight. However, it's not impossible for Shay to learn. He's already aware of how assassins should perform. At this point in the story, the assassins don't have full control of Rome. Some of the Borgia towers still stand. Shay will have to retake the assassin towers. I don't think Shay is going to have too much trouble taking down these towers. These towers are confusing. The problem is that we don't see what these towers really do. In Rogue, the gang hideouts were sometimes the base of operations for an entire town. In Revelations, Ezio assigned certain assassins to fortify and protect a hideout. In Brotherhood, however, these hideouts are just kind of there. We don't know how many assassins are in there, and there are no guards or mercenaries guarding them. The towers are also not too large, so even if there were assassins in them, there wouldn't be too many. There's a problem with taking back these towers. In Rogue, the civilians hated the gang that the assassins employed. However, the civilians in Brotherhood love the districts where the Borgias aren't in control, aka the assassin districts. Now, if Shay just marches in and cuts down the assassins in the tower and rips down the flag, it won't be enough. The assassins still have control of the stores, people, and the property around the towers. The assassins would just take it back after a while. Shay knows this and would likely go to Rodrigo to explain this. Rodrigo Rodrigo would use some of his wealth towards controlling the economy rather than the military, much to the dismay of Cesare. The Templars at this point are gaining more control in assassin territories, opening up shops that report to them. After a while, Shay starts taking back some of the towers. The assassins in them are mostly scholars or scribes that send orders to other assassins. After retaking each tower, Shay reads the plans, realizing that a lot of these recruits report to Ezio directly. Due to the assassins losing a major part of their economical control in Rome, the mercenaries that used to fight for the assassins move on. Without Bartolomeo leading them, a majority of them find different jobs and people to serve under. At this point, the conflict can go in 3 separate ways. Ezio would know about Shay. With the Brotherhood losing so much footing, it's unlikely he himself would immediately go after Shay. After all, he'd have to lead the assassins through this conflict. He'd probably send a couple of his best assassins after Shay first. He knows Shay is deadly, but he has no idea how experienced he is. Shay, on the other hand, would go after La Volpe. The task of finding La Volpe is pretty much impossible. In the games, he constantly surprises Ezio in the thieves missions, and in the novels, you're reminded of his stealth skills. Shay really doesn't have too much experience with tracking down and investigating his targets. In Rogue, the way he got to his targets was pretty straightforward. This is where Shay could unfortunately fail for the first time. It doesn't really matter the exact way Shay tries to take down La Volpe. He could use the 100 Eyes gang, which was somewhat allied with Cesare Borgia. La Volpe's gang and the 100 Eyes are enemies, and Shay could get them to fight. However, this would result with Ezio being pulled in since he was pretty involved with the gang's activities. If Ezio gets involved, it would end up in a face-to-face confrontation between him and Shay, which we'll get into later. However, another way this could play out is that Shay would try to investigate himself. Either way, La Volpe would learn of Shay. Volpe is an experienced assassin, and you could debate what he would do in a situation like this. He could either A, go after Shay himself, maybe with the help of his gang. After all, he's had years of experience, and to his knowledge, Shay is a very talented fighter. This could play out in many different ways. If Volpe confronts Shay with some of his gang members face to face, Shay will likely come out on top. Gang members, after all, are just normal thugs, and La Volpe's strengths aren't in his combat skill. This, however, is very out of character for La Volpe. The only reason I could see him doing this is because he doesn't trust Machiavelli, and letting the other assassins know that Shay is after him could somehow tip off Shay due to the quote-unquote spy. The next outcome would be that La Volpe goes for Shay himself, but through stealth. This is in character. La Volpe, after all, went to kill Machiavelli by himself. La Volpe has even taken Ezio by surprise, and I think it's fair to say that Ezio is more stealthy than Shay, or at least on the same level. After all, he's had hundreds of missions of just pure stealth. If La Volpe tries to get Shay through stealth, I think Shay's done for. Shay has experience taking down assassin stalkers that hunt him, but comparing them to La Volpe is just kind of disrespectful. The wiki doesn't even call these stalkers fully trained assassins. Shay has fought gang members, but they were never really hunting Shay specifically, rather just patrolling their respective hideouts and running away if they get spotted. There is a chance that Shay could react last minute and turn the tide against La Volpe. This would result with Shay killing him, although this outcome is highly improbable. The third option is something a bit more boring, but it would likely happen. La Volpe would just go on the run and avoid Shay. If he doesn't want to be found, he probably won't. He has an underground network and his connections to the assassins who he doesn't 100% trust, but he could go to them. Now we'll quickly recap what we just went over. If Shay tries to go after La Volpe, it would likely end with Shay's death. Shay, of course, could get lucky and either kill the assassin or just fail to track him down. Now for our first failure of the video, Shay would not be able to kill La Volpe. Now, this isn't the end of it. Not being able to kill one assassin doesn't mean the Brotherhood itself will survive. Shay could cripple it in other places, which would cause it to wither out and die, or could he? Now we'll quickly go over what I mentioned earlier. Ezio will send his recruits after Shay, presumably his best ones. Now this is Ezio's main force. His recruits are his main strength. Now I know people are going to bring up that Shay easily killed assassins, but did he really? A majority of the assassin forces in Rogue were just gang members, which even the weakest assassins like Jacob and Arno can take down. Now hear me out, this goes either way. I don't think Shay's going to die from Ezio's recruits. Granted, it's possible he could, but I wouldn't bet my money on it. Let's not underestimate Ezio's assassins though. They are easily the strongest side assassins slash recruits we've seen in the franchise, other than the recruits in AC3. If you guys are interested, I'm happy to make a video on Shay versus Connor's Brotherhood. Once Ezio's assassins have reached their max rank, they basically get all of his weapons and gadgets. Ezio will only send these experienced assassins after Shay. When they inevitably find Shay, Shay will win. Granted, these assassins will try to get the jump on Shay just like they do with every enemy in game. They might try to hit Shay with a smoke bomb, but Shay has a gas mask to protect him. Not to mention Shay has enhanced senses, which would likely work against these assassins, unlike Volpe, who is just on another level. Shay will cut down Ezio's assassins, sending a strong message to the mentor of the Brotherhood. This is where it culminates. Ezio will himself go after Shay. Shay just became the Brotherhood's #1 target. Volpe's gang, Ezio plus his recruits, and the remaining assassin allies will be on the watch for Shay. The Brotherhood at this point still has 2 of its guilds still standing. Both the Courtesan and the Thief guilds are very effective. If Volpe is still alive, he could come out of hiding since Shay will be preoccupied with everyone looking for him. If you're trying to defend Shay, you could point to the Colonial Brotherhood looking for Shay for years and failing, but it's not really the same idea. The Colonial Brotherhood was busy fighting a much larger war, and while Ezio's Brotherhood was fighting against Cesare, they were more concerned with taking down the Templars. Let's not even mention the skill gap between the Colonial assassins and Ezio's assassins. I don't really do this, but you could argue that the Colonial Brotherhood is just a glorified gang. Getting back to the conflict, Shay at this time could try to weaken Ezio's Brotherhood by stopping assassinations, similar to the ones he did in the colonies. Shay would be successful with intercepting these assassinations. They would be more challenging than the ones back home due to the assassinations actually being carried out by assassins and not gang members, but it shouldn't be too much trouble for Shay. He'd be saving Templar allies and eliminating assassins. Another 2 things we should talk about are Claudia Auditore and Machiavelli. Claudia is the leader of the Courtesan guild, which is important to the assassins. In spite of that, I don't think Shay would be able to kill her. After the death of Bartolomeo and the other assassins, and him investigating Volpe, Claudia's security would increase. Ezio would send some of the best assassins to look after her, making her basically untouchable. If Shay hunted down Claudia instead of Volpe, or even instead of Bartolomeo, he'd be in the same position as he is right now, except with an angrier Ezio. We should now look at Machiavelli. Machiavelli is probably the safest assassin in this conflict. He's not really leading a guild and is secretly the second in command. He's well connected and historically even served on the Borgia's court. I think he's safe from Shay. This all leads up to Ezio and Shay coming face to face. Ezio would be the one to track down Shay. People have debated this matchup a ton, and I'm planning on making a video on it eventually, similar to my other versus videos. If you're watching this video in the future, check the pinned comment. The video's likely already out. Due to it not being a random encounter, and it was Ezio himself looking for Shay, he'll have some of his assassins with him. This fight is going to be tough, and it will result with some of Ezio's assassins dying and Shay himself losing his life. If Ezio was by himself, the outcome would likely be the same, but with Ezio being more injured. I know that there will be people that say Shay would win in a fight, but let me defend my boy Ezio real quick. He's a better fighter, constantly fighting a lot more guards than Shay does. He's skilled with a much larger variety of weapons and has gadgets that could combat Shay's advanced arsenal. He's more experienced and has the advantage in stealth too. This is the place where Shay would likely meet his end. Now, if Shay somehow by some miracle wins the fight against Ezio and his assassins, which in all likelihood he wouldn't, he could theoretically destroy the rest of the Brotherhood. The only assassin that could stop him would be Volpe, which if he killed him already wouldn't be a problem. But that's not happening, and I think we all know it. The chances for this outcome is way too low to even consider. So in conclusion, was Shay successful with destroying or crippling Ezio's Brotherhood? The answer to that is no, he wasn't. This mainly comes down to the Brotherhood being far more organized and skilled than their colonial counterparts. Each of their guilds are very effective, and they don't have an obvious weakness like the Colonial Brotherhood. An example of a weakness for the Colonial Brotherhood would be their over-reliance on their gang. The assassins leading the Brotherhood are very skilled, such as Volpe, Claudia, and Bartolomeo, making it very hard for Shay to take them down. Finally, the recruits are exceptionally trained when compared to the assassins in the colonies. While he was successful with hurting the Brotherhood, it's nothing the assassins can't recover from. A lot of the leaders are still standing, and the damage Shay did can be fixed. From all the different scenarios that we went over, it's likely Shay would either die from La Volpe or Ezio and his assassins. Shay would not be able to do enough damage to the Brotherhood before being hunted down by Ezio himself. If the Brotherhood was at 100% before Shay came into the picture, it's likely at 60% or a bit higher when he dies. Of course, this video is just my opinion and my idea of what would happen. It's not a guaranteed fact that it would play out this way. Every assassin in the Brotherhood could slip on a banana peel and die, and Shay would win without lifting a finger. We never know. If you guys enjoyed this video, or if I missed or overlooked something, let me know. If you guys want to see more videos like this, leave a like to let me know, or leave your request in the comments, or you could even reach out to me through Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.